Maybe I need to go downstairs and go in front of the computer.
No, you're good, man. I think we should
All
be
right.
live here. I think it started. Just waiting for YouTube to connecting streaming software to go live. How do I go live? It says I'm live, so it should be good. Yeah, we're good, man.
All right.
Got the stream going, so we'll see.
Ooh.
Just not sure how to see the chat. To see if anybody can chat with us. Good day, Steve.
Yeah, I want to. Good evening.
Good evening.
Are we live in living color?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna turn this down. Yeah. Here's the. There we are.
Look at that! Oh boy,
We're
look
on
at
YouTube,
us.
man.
We are on the internet.
Watch out, baby, because I'm using technology.
What you drinking?
Drinking my life away, Steve.
Ooh, look at
that. It's a school night.
I hear you. So only 10, right?
Yeah, they're the non-alcoholic version. So let's talk music, Steven. What are you drinking?
I am drinking water.
In your nondescript.
Yeah.
In your nondescript Grateful Dead thing. Got some music in the mail today.
Oh yeah? What'd you get?
I got. I showed you that.
Oh, very cool.
You know what's really cool that I didn't realize? And I mean, we can talk about this album. Like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very common record. Like, you know what I mean? Like.
Not around here, it's not.
Really?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's scarce, but I would say the first three, especially Santana 2, I see pop up a lot. But I don't want to say that I don't want to say it's rare, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's common either. At least in my neck of the woods.
So I see it, but I think it's I don't I think I see it, but I don't think anybody really buys it, right? So it's like it's one of those records that you just kind of see on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that it's basically a Love Supreme, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Like I didn't realize that. So, yeah. So I'm excited.
I always look at that. I always think of that and Welcome is kind of like sister albums. They're both that you can put them on one right after the other one and just have a nice flow of music.
What I'm kind of excited about is like I'm really just not familiar with this era of Santana. Like I don't. I mean, the first three I think are, you know, I got those ones, and then I was just sort of like, how are you going to top that, right?
Right. Those are a solid. These first three albums are solid. There's not a dud on it down those entire three records.
Yeah. But I wonder. I mean, you know, obviously this was a different time back then, but I love that back cover. Like what are those guys up to? You know what I mean? Like what was going on there? I know that it was, you know, they were I'm assuming they had a guru of some kind.
They're meeting Pete Townsend and they're working on who came first after that. They're walking out of that building going to the sessions.
Oh really?
No, I'm making that up. I'm sorry. I said that with such conviction.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. I think this is probably the one that I'm kind of most excited to listen to. But so I got that.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
Would you like to know how much it was?
Can I guess first?
Sure, go ahead.
15 big ones.
15 big ones. Let me take a look and see. It was. You're pretty close. So
17 and a quarter.
yeah, just about. So I got it with, there was a discount with it. So I saved basically one, two, three, four, five. I got 5 CDs, saved $15, and it was like $20, so like $17. So for all of those albums, so that's pretty sick.
That's great, man. That's and to buy those records, it would what would you think it would cost you to buy each of those individually?
At least $5 each, right?
Yeah,
At least
yeah.
$25, no questions asked.
So
Um, yeah. Still, I think we have one person in the chat, and it might be myself. So I'm not entirely sure. Um, but what are you listening to? These Did you listen to anything cool today?
uh, I played. What did I play today? I didn't play a whole lot today. I spent primarily the day at the zoo with my daughter, so I didn't listen to a whole lot. I did play Kisses Love Gun for like the billionth time in the car. So, but I don't know that I listened to anything really to brag about. I'm trying to rack my brain. Yeah, I honestly today was a very limited music day, which is odd because usually, I'll stream it and I'll have it going in the background when I'm doing various things and whatnot. So,
Yeah, I think that here, let's see if we can get Craig to jump on. Um, I will. Do you, is there anybody you want me to send the stream to, with a link at least?
whoever's fine.
Who are you? Um, let's see. I'm gonna say.
Oh, that new Grateful Dead set. I listened to a good chunk of that. The one from '71.
Yep.
Yeah, I listened to a good chunk of that.
I still have it in the box.
Oh, good night.
Haven't opened
You
it up
haven't even
yet.
opened the box yet.
No.
Are there plans to do that, or is it sitting right there in the box? Is that where it's going to stay?
Yeah. No. I think I'll definitely crack it open. Um,
Yeah,
and listen to it. I mean, it's one of those things that that's always like the exciting kind of thing about Grateful Dead is those um, when the new box set that they release every year. Um, they've been knocking it out of the park. There's been a lot of really
oh
cool
yeah.
ones that they've been releasing.
Well, you know how I feel about '71. That's my favorite year for the Dead. So anything with '71, especially early in the tour, like I think we've talked about it before, but from February to April, though that of '71 is my favorite period for the Dead. I just think that just some very fun and interesting, cool things that they were doing, and some new songs being introduced, and um, I really love that period, and I don't know how you're having that just sit in the box. Like, dude, as soon as the UPS guy drops it off at my doorstep, when he's like logging it in, I'm cutting the box open. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I applaud your self control.
I mean, it's one of those things that I'll listen to it right now. It's like I got a couple other things in the hopper, so it's like when I can really focus on. I've been listening to a lot of Grateful Dead, so I'm kind of like I'm at that point where I sort of get that like the fatigue from listening to them so much, and it's just sort of
Sure.
like we just kind of put them on the back burner for a little bit. So
Well, it's nice to have something fresh to come back to then
right,
when that time
exactly,
comes around.
yeah. Nate Bouchard joined. Nate, boom. How are you doing, sir? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining the stream. This is our first time doing this, and we're just going to try to have some fun
Yeah, welcome, Nate.
and talk about fun things. So, um, I think you might have left the stream because now it's just back down to one.
Okay, well, it was nice while it lasted.
But yeah, I'll probably just bust that open at some point. So
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Dave's picks. I don't really try to listen to those like as soon as they're released or they hit my doorstep. So um, yeah, and I talked about these, but I got the Deep Purple, the first three.
Okay, great. Yeah, have you listened to those?
Well, I know of them because I have them on
Yeah.
vinyl, so
Okay.
now I can get rid of them. But got the bonus tracks, just the handful of just a couple. You know what I mean? It's not like they overdo it. Up, Nate Burchard's still here. Sorry, we thought we lost you.
So,
So,
so those Deep Purple records are kind of hit or miss. I mean, that definitely seems like a band that was trying. You're a bigger fan of that earlier period than I think I am. That's not to say I don't like it, but uh, for me, the Deep Purple I always go back to is the stuff they did with Glenn Hughes, like Stormbringer, Burn. That's kind of, especially come taste the band too. That's kind of the stuff that I kind of tend to gravitate towards, just because I'm so burnt out on Machine Head and Fireball and N Rock and all that, which those are amazing records. But that early period, I like their Beatle covers. I think what they did with Help is really cool, and the address is really neat.
yeah.
The cover of Kentucky Woman rocks. That's probably the best version of that song. So yeah,
We just need
so
like a solitary man. What are some other Neil Diamond songs we could do?
Shiloh,
Shy.
yeah, you could do that.
Just
Yeah.
Hot August Night in general. Just do that whole album.
Here's a 15-minute version of Cherry Cherry with a whipping organ solo.
By John Blur.
Yeah.
Jumping back to that, the Nate Bouchard says he's a Colombian pressing of that Love Supreme Santana record. So
Very cool.
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it around, along with is it the Mahavishnu Orchestra? Is that how you pronounce that? Is that what it is?
I've never known how you pronounce that,
I
so
think
I've
that's what
always
it
been like,
is.
what's
The band that John McLaughlin's in, right?
which is always I've referred to it afterwards and let the other person take a risk at butchering the name. So
What's that band that John McLaughlin was in? But
yeah,
yeah,
they rock, man.
those albums is funny because like that's another album that when I first started like record collecting, like I'd see that and I didn't know what it
Yeah,
was, and I never was like, that was sort of like one of those things that when you first start record collecting, your money sort of goes to specific things. You have certain ideas on what you want to get and which records you want to buy. So when I would see those, I think it was what Birds of Prey, Birds of Paradise, Birds of Fire. I don't even know what it was. That one I saw quite a bit. There's the one that has like a flame on it. It's like a little like
yeah,
bear, the black one with a.
yeah. That's got what's the something like race that kicks that off. That's really good. That's from what I've heard. That's my I don't want to say favorite, but that's the record that when I throw it on, that's the one I want to listen to.
Yeah.
So you can tell I don't listen to it too often, but yeah, it's funny when I'm listening to Fusion or something like that. I tell you, man, some of those early weather reports really hit. Like what is it, the Body Electric and all that.
That's a band I never got into.
Really, no
Saw
Jaco Pastorius or anything like
no
that for you?
saw the
Okay.
records. Never had the urge to kind of pick those up. I mean, that they're
What
around,
about
but
what about Return to Forever? I love Return to Forever, man.
no idea. I
Really?
couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. Yeah,
Wow, that surprises me. See, I never knew that. Okay.
I just know there's like an album that has a hat on it. That's it. You know what I mean? Like I can tell you the name.
That's weather reports.
I'm familiar
That's
with that,
okay.
and that's it.
Right on. Okay.
Um, but yeah, there's just not a band that I got into. I think that I got stuck way too much with '60s music that um, it's seriously like a place that you can just without saying rabbit hole, like everybody always says, oh, going down the rabbit hole with the '60s music. Um, it's never ending. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah.
you can, even if you want to start buying 45s or buying the albums, it's never ending. So there's a lot of stuff from the '70s I never got there. You know what I mean? And I
Well,
think Go ahead.
because there's never an end to it. I'm sorry, it's because there's never an end to it. There's always something. It seems like something new to you to discover with just about any genre in the '60s.
Yeah, yeah. And I like '60s folk. I think we've talked about that. I know
Mm.
that's not your thing. I listened to um, Fairport Convention today. They're like, what's it, their third album? What we did on our summer holidays, which is one of my favorite Fairport Convention records. Um, but again, there's a band that I know that you don't know. Do you know anything of Fairport Convention? Do you know any of their albums, any of their songs? I think you said you had
Did
Legion.
that chick?
Sandy Denny,
Yeah,
she sang on the Led
yeah.
Zeppelin thing, right?
Which is what I was gonna say. So that's the beginning and ending of my knowledge with them. No, I have one Fairport convention. I want to say, gosh, somebody sent that to me. Maybe Chris.
Chris Brzezowski.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
definitely
maybe.
a Fairport Convention fan.
Okay, maybe he sent that to me. It's been years ago. I probably should revisit that album. I literally played about half of it and just wouldn't do anything for me. And probably about time to revisit that and see if my opinion has changed or.
Is it like the one that sort of is like purple and gray? Is that sort of what
That's exactly
so
that's exactly what it
that's
is.
Liege and the Leaf and or Leaf and the Liege. I always kind of mix those up. I'm not sure which one it is, but there's a great tune on there called Tamlin, which is the jammer.
Okay.
So if you listen to one song in there, listen to that one because that one's pretty good. There's other good songs in there, but that's the one that's like the song. Um,
Okay.
but hey, we got 4 people watching now, so
Hey, look at us.
good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Drop something in the chat if you want to talk about music. We're just sort of chatting about everything and anything. So, Steve, do you want to talk about your big record purge that you got going on?
Yeah, I'm really paring down and selling and getting rid of a good chunk of my collection. Just because I think you and I have talked about this for a while now, and I think we've kind of inspired each other to an extent to kind of take a look at this and decide really what we're doing here, what we want to do with this. And I listened to your video that you uploaded, I guess, last night. You recorded last night and you uploaded it, I would guess, shortly thereafter.
Yep.
So, and a lot of what you said is what we kind of talked about, rather than just kind of repeating and reiterating what you said. Um, it's just time. Again, one thing I want to touch on with that is just what you said was perfect. And you and I have talked about it. What's the end game? What is the overall objective? And I don't think there is one. I think that for some, it's well, I have more records or better records than this guy, so I win.
Right.
It's
I think there's. I mean, the strange thing about record collecting is sort of just that, like, where people just like flex on somebody, where they pick up a certain record, and I think that especially speaking of the vinyl community, even in the early days where um, reissues were sort of kind of frowned upon, where somebody was like, "Hey, this is the newest reissue came out," and and it was like, "Oh well, hey, that's not anywhere near what an original copy would be," and oh, it's all they digitized it and they compressed it and things like that. And I know that that's sort of like the sacred sin of record collecting, right? Like there's always sort of that lust to get an original copy, and it's sort of frowned upon that, oh, this is a reissue and things like that. But
okay. Well, then take two mortgage payments and go buy an original copy.
well, exactly. That's and I think one of the
And
big
that's a sound financial decision.
well, I think that's one thing that I've always sort of looked at too is that um, when I would buy used records, I would always set like a budget, like, hey, I'm going to spend $60 today.
I think you have to.
But I would never like like $30 was my limit for records. Like I would never pay more than $30. And even some of the crown jewels of my collection, those big ones that are the original copies. I mean, off the top of my head, I think about maybe an original pressing of Trout Mask Replica and the Velvets and Nico, right? But I got them for less than $30, right?
Wow.
But we're talking we're talking about 15 years ago, right? We're not
Sure.
talking about yesterday or anything like that. So there was always like I was always very conscious about like, okay, does is the collection sort of becoming? Am I paying more for this than what it would be on CD? Because I've always sort of like in the back of my mind, kind of like I always wanted to get the best deal. Like, what's the best way you can get the music? Like, if you can get it on vinyl
Mhm.
cheaper than CD, like, okay, yeah, then I'm going to do that. But we've sort of entered this era of now it's like next thing you know, like all you're buying is like new vinyl, new vinyl, new vinyl, new vinyl. And if you like classic artists, you're buying these reissues and these big massive lavish box sets that they've done. And if you're buying new bands, it's like, oh hey, well we're doing a double record, fourth side is etched, so really you're only getting, one and a half records of music, and it's colored vinyl, by the way, and it's a double gatefold. So it's going to be $36.
I was just gonna say that'll be $35. So, and where to you, what is, and I know this is not necessarily anything that you can answer for everybody, but for you personally, was there ever an end game to this, or were you just collecting just kind of have fun, or were you, well, I've got to have this record on, I've got to have it on different labels or different pressings or different countries, or was there ever anything like that for you?
No, I think that I think early on, and I don't know if this is just sort of from collecting baseball cards as a kid and uh, being a set builder. We always wanted to collect
Mhm.
the set of something. It was always sort of like I felt important, sort of to get like just get everything right. So like if
Mhm.
I was gonna buy if I was gonna buy Pink Floyd, I was gonna get every Pink Floyd record, and in a way that's doable, right? That's not something that's too hard to do. Um, and especially with some of the box sets that they've come out with, you can probably do that for under $200. You can basically have every single one of their official releases, right?
I don't know why you'd want to, but yeah, you could
But that's
have
the thing, right?
some of those last some of those latter albums are rough.
And you find basically getting into you get into sort of this cycle where you buy albums that just aren't that good, right?
Well,
Um,
you're a completist then,
right.
and I used to be the same way, and that's the thing that brought me like Jethro Tull's like a band that I liked about three or four of their records. Those are the ones I kept. I kept the first three. Maybe I kept five. I kept the first three. I think I kept Songs from the Wood and maybe Passion of Play or something like that. The other ones were ones that I'm selling just because I don't listen to them and I don't. There's not enough justification that I can come up with other than say,
So
well, I have, you
so
know,
so I'm gonna be the circuit breaker here, right? So
go for it.
this was uh,
Yes,
Benefit,
Benefit,
Stand
which is
Up,
probably my favorite. Benefit is probably my favorite. Yeah, Stand Up.
um, Aqualung,
I kept Aqualung. I kept Thick as a Brick. So that's five right there.
and you,
Um,
and you said you kept Songs from the Wood.
yeah, and I got rid of Minstrel from the Gallery and Too Old to Rock and Roll and um, yeah, I think no, Heavy Horses. Okay, so that's seven. Okay, so other than that, the other ones that War Child. Oh, what a terrible album that is. Ugh.
What is that one
That
album from the '80s that they did? That's like sort of like an electronic. It's the typical like
Bronze Sword and the Beast or something.
no, the Bronze
Is
or the
that the one?
Beast.
No,
No, that's like 70. I feel like that's like
no,
70 or 8 or something.
no. That was like 84, 85.
Okay, all right. Well, there goes my Jethro Tull knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Which stopped after the first three records.
But that's just like, why keep these records if I, number one, I don't like them, and number two, I'm not going to listen to them. It's just taking up shelf space, and it's just cumbersome. Like, it's just, it's the fact of having to move these, and just, the pandemic's had a lot to do with it, and just like, everybody spent time in their house, and just kind of living with these things, again, what you said last night. And it's just kind of like, why do I have these?
Yeah.
Why do I have this?
Yeah. Nate brought something up in the chat, and he said it's harder to find everything by Frank Zappa than Pink Floyd.
Well, that's because Zappa's got how many releases, and continuously cranking stuff out.
So I think that, and he also mentioned Crest of the Knave. We'll get back to Jethro Tull in a moment, but my, what about JethroTull.com? Wasn't that one JT.com? Wasn't that one that they released in like that wasn't on vinyl, but there is some sort of release that's like that. Frank Zappa on vinyl is, oh my goodness. Let's talk about the white whale that is Frank Zappa on vinyl.
So I scored Freak Out for $3 at my local record store about 12, longer than that, probably about 14, 15 years ago. That was one of the best scores I think I've ever had.
So I have two Frank Zappa stories that I'd like to share that I know that I don't think Steve, you and I have ever talked about. The first one was growing up. I went record shopping, or went record shopping. I went. What's the word I'm looking for? Went to a flea market. There used to be a flea market just outside of Pittsburgh called the Wildwood Flea Market. It is no longer, but Wildwood was pretty fantastic. There was a lot. You had to pay to get in. I think it was like $2 to get in, which is kind of like, for a flea market. That's how you know it's like big time, right? It's not like it's free to get in. Like, usually they're charging at the door. So I go and I go through this, and it's something that you probably could walk through the whole thing, maybe in about 2 or 3 hours. And it's not something that they did have some buildings that were like the permanent, like the people that own spots kind of thing, but the rest of it was just you set up a table and you sold. So it wasn't, you always got sort of a cycle of different things. You may see the same people week after week, but there was a lot of stuff that was different, right? So I go down. There was always this guy that had this van that had records. Usually they were pretty cheap. I got a copy of Go to Heaven, Grateful Dead for $0.25. I used to get a lot of John Mayall records. I was really into John Mayall at that time. He had a copy of Funhouse for $50, original copy. Wow. And I thought that was like crazy. But I didn't realize what the record was. So given the opportunity to go back, like say this weekend, and if that was still there and that record was still there for $50, you can believe that I would buy it. But I didn't know what I didn't know what it was at the time, right? So we walk through this whole flea market, we do this whole thing, and as we're leaving, there's more cars, right? So usually what they would do is they would have, or there was more tables, so they would overflow sort of in the parking lot. They had this sort of like this little drag strip basically that was for as these people. So if you went there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and these people hadn't set up their tables yet, they'd put them there, and whatever. And this guy had this box of records, and it was like Frank Zappa, Frank Zappa, Frank Zappa, Grateful Dead. Oh wow! And the thing was, I hadn't spent a lot of money at that point, and it was like a little kid, and he's on this walkie-talkie with his dad. It was like, there's a guy here, and he's looking at Freak Out, Mothers of Invention. And Dad was like, $3, this one is just another band from LA. $3, right? So and then he's like, I'm buying all these records, and he's like, whoever's there, they really have a good taste in music, and that was the thing. And I got all these Zappa records right out of the gate. So that was like, that was pretty awesome, and they were super cheap, and There was that. So this actually there's three Zappa stories if you have time.
For Frank Zappa, always.
The second one was um, this actually kind of occurred before the Mothers of Invention, before this one. So we'll go back even further. I was at, and I think I've told you this story. This is the butcher cover kind of our comparison where we had that conversation. I know your butcher cover story. So I'm in a Goodwill, and it's a copy of We're Only in It for the Money. And
Right.
I go and I pull the record out of the jacket to see what it is, and it's the Yellow Label Verve promo, right? And it's the Mothers of Invention. We're only in it for the money. And I was like, this is the wrong record in there. This is Frank Zappa. This isn't the Mothers. Like, I didn't know who the Mothers of Invention were, and I left that there. That was probably 2001, 2002, something like that. So, yeah, there's a war story right there. Third Frank Zappa story was when I was in college. There was this book sale that they would do. Like a big. It was this church, and they would have books for like a quarter, and fill a bag for $2 or whatever, right? One of those
Right.
kind of things. But they had records, and my brother kind of told me, hey, go check this out. They got cool records there. And he's like, you want to be first in line, right? So I kind of I came up. This was actually before I was going to school there. He was there. I came up, and I kind of hung out in his apartment, and I'm watching the clock, like, okay, all right, I'll go. And it was maybe like an hour before it opened up. And I was just kind of like, I could have gone earlier, but I didn't. So I go, and there's this kid that was in front of me, a guy and his mom. I later made friends with him because he actually worked at the record store that I worked at. But him and his mom, they go in, and there's like all these records, and they're just like filling up. They had these big tote bags. I mean, I had nothing. I just like walked in, and they just had these tote bags, and they were like filling up. They were grabbing like all the rock records, put them in there because they were like a quarter a piece. And he grabbed, he got all these Zappa records, like a huge stack of records, because they were all in alphabetical order. And I was like, can I have one of those Zappa records? And gave me Chunga's Revenge. And Chunga's Revenge was the only one that I got, but it was like a quarter.
Yeah.
And that's it. That was the my two Zappa stories. So, um, yeah. So
How
like,
did you get into Zappa? This is always what I always like asking people how they got into Zappa.
so I had at the time there was a girl that I was dating. Her dad was like really into. He was really into music, and he really liked me because it was like, I mean, I feel terrible even saying this, but it was like I was the son that he like never had, right? It was like, oh
Oh
man,
wow.
you like the Allman Brothers, like, oh man, come in here and listen to the Marshall Tucker Band with me. And he had some Zappa records, and I think I got in one of those records. Like, he would be like, yeah, Frank Zappa's so cool, and he was kind of like, if you see Zappa records, you got to buy them. Like, that was just basically what he told me, right? And then he was like, oh, he was in a band called the Mothers of Invention before it was Frank Zappa, and that was that whole thing.
And you're
But
like, I should have grabbed that record.
but one of the records I got at that sale was at that flea market was Mother Mania. And I used to just listen to the crap out of Mother Mania on cassette tape, which, as you know, I mean, I taped it from the record onto a cassette tape and I listened to it in my car because I didn't have a CD
You
player
played
in
it
the
in your
car.
car. Yeah, I
Exactly.
was the same way.
Yeah,
I was the same
exactly.
way.
Um, welcome to being born in the '80s. That's what we had, right?
Right.
So 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 I listened to Mother Mania. I would listen to that quite a bit, because that was sort of there was all those little weird intros and outros. But man, Freak Out was like I would listen to Freak Out all the time. And what a weird record, man! But it was definitely up there as one of my all time favorites. It's tough. Like those first three, like Absolutely Free is pretty good, but Freak Out's pretty good too. So how about you?
So it's it's funny. Do you remember? This is probably about 2001 or two, or maybe even three, somewhere in that time frame. Do you remember VH1? It seemed like every week they would have these countdown shows, and they'd be
Oh
like
yeah.
4 hours, and it
Yep.
would be top 100 artists, top 100 bands, top one whatever. It would just be like this half a day marathon of just whatever they happen to be talking about. And I want to say it was something like top 100 artists or top 100 rock artists, but it was just really kind of, they had their typical stuff on there, like what you would think, like, Pink Floyd and Rush and Kiss and whatever else, they would kind of have your typical stuff on there. But they had some at that time, to me, I thought was obscure. They had King Crimson on there. Never heard of King Crimson before, but heard 21st Century Schizoid Man, and was kind of like, man, that sounds really cool. I really like that. And then Zappa came on, and I remember they interviewed Scott Ian and like a couple of other people for like this 45 minutes or 45 minute to 60 or to a full minute blurb about Frank Zappa, and I was like, what I heard, I just loved it. I think I heard, um, gosh, don't eat that yellow snow, of course, and like there was like there's a couple of other
I'm
like instrumental
going to
gems, like
Montana.
I think that was on there, and I think like a couple of other ones, and I just got really taken by it. And so I remember I went to Books a Million the next day, and I bought, or maybe it was a Barnes and Nobles, anyway. But I bought his greatest hits. What was it? Like Strictly Commercial, I think.
Yeah.
For and I bought it, and it was funny. The older lady who rang me up was like, "Oh, Frank Zappa." She's like, "Do you like Frank Zappa?" I was like, "I'm gonna find out. I think so." She's like, "Well, you'll have to let me know what you think." And I literally put that in my van, and I drove around. As soon as it ended, I went back in there and I grabbed. I decided to get We're Only in It for the Money because it had a song called Hot Poop, and I was like, I've got to hear what Hot Poop sounds like. Spoiler alert, it did disappoint, but the record did not. I
Yeah.
love We're Only in It for the Money, and I got the joke immediately, and
Yeah.
I was like, all right, this guy is an intellectual. He's an amazing musician, and from there, anything and everything that I could find from Zappa, I just completely bought. Side unheard. I was just hook, line, and sinker. That was for me.
And I think one thing that's even cool about him is just listening to, I know we said first three, I said first three, you didn't say first three, I said first three, but the first four, let's put Lumpy Gravy in there, and like,
Yeah.
it's just like those, they just meld so well together. There's all those like inside jokes that sort of like, go across, all the different songs, and um, yeah, I know my brother, like Uncle Bernie's Farm, like, man, like we used to like we used to talk about that one all the time or listen to it. I always thought that was Santa Claus to the rescue mission. Like there was always, like, that song is just so bizarre. Like it's just like the weirdest thing. You just like can't help but stop listening. So hey, I want to just say hey to some of the folks we got in chat. We got 6 people
For sure.
that are on. Hello everybody. Thank you for uh, checking out our chat here and our
Yeah.
this is the
We appreciate it.
the first chapter meeting for the Minglewood Preservation Society Pit Barbecue. Um, Look us up on Facebook, and I think we can. I was trying to do live videos, but maybe we can make this a regular thing. But we got Craig in the chat. Hello, Craig. Thank you for joining. He
Thank
said
you.
that the Zappa rabbit hole is an insane one to fall down, and it sure is. Of course, Nate's on. Nate, how you doing? And we got Shane Rocky. Hello, Shane. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else that's a silent observer, feel free to say hey in the chat and just let us talk. Shane just said, "I used to hate Zappa. Now I love him." which I think is,
I think that's fair.
I know you and I have talked about that. Listening to Frank Zappa as we slowly eclipse our 40s, is a lot different than when we were 22 listening to Frank Zappa. So, there's a lot of times when I was just like, "Whoa, whoa, what am I listening to here?" Or I'm like singing along, right? Because like you can't like Catholic
Well,
girl, you know what I mean? And you're just
Warren Cucamonga. Dude, that and oh, my hair's getting good in the back. Those have entered my lexicon, and I'll just like it's like I'll just Warren Cuca, like I'll just sing that just sometimes, much to the chagrin of my wife and dog. They'll just look at me and be like, God, he's on that again, and I'll just it's one of those things that there's again, like you talked about the inside Zappa jokes, kind of how they just build, and I think there's somewhat of a finale there with Uncle Meat, but yeah, there's a lot of there, there's a lot of uh, there's a lot of Zappa phrases that I think you can
Here's my
incorporate,
old.
and yeah, exactly.
Oh
Uh,
man,
so,
was it
um,
was it a
but yeah,
Sears poncho?
no fooling.
No
Uh,
fooling.
But I tell you what, I think if you had to pick one Zappa album, now I'm not going to say that's your favorite, but one when you're like, I want to listen to some Zappa. What's the one that you grab?
Oh my goodness, it's
See, for me, it's always Roxy and Elsewhere.
okay.
I
I know what you're
go to
talking.
that
Yeah.
one, dude. I to me that is it's got everything I love about it. It's got the musicality. It's got the funny lyrics. Um, uh,
It's like a
it's
penguin in
just it's
bondage, baby.
boy. It's oh yeah. It's just it's got everything.
Baby
It's
snakes.
love it, man. It's just to me that's the album that cheapness. That's one of my favorite Frank Zappa songs,
That's
man.
a good
That's
song.
just
Um,
that's so great. And the accompanying video that comes with it too. Roxy and Elsewhere they released a Blu-ray of it. That's amazing, man.
but his you can't deny. I mean, songs like King Kong and
Oh no,
like
not at all.
it's impossible. Like it's impossible to. Um,
There's no wrong answer to this. That's the beauty of this question. There's no wrong answer. Like even if you say them or us, there's no wrong answer. Like they all have they all have their own merits.
yeah, I think that if you like Zappa, like you really like you, it's I think one even what's the oh man, help me out here. I'm just drawing a blank. It's the man from Utopia, right? The one with the
Yes.
the fly swatting, right?
Dude,
Yeah, cocaine
cocaine
doing
decisions.
decisions, right?
What's the instrumental on that? Oh, rats! Somebody help me out with that if you're big a Zappa nut as we are. But there's an instrumental on that I love. Like, gosh, I can't even think of the name of it now. But yeah, there's some highlights on that record.
We got
It,
some
it, it,
we got some
they have
comments here in the
tries.
chat that just some of the Shane was saying that Zappa took me to the Captain Beefheart rabbit hole, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
and Nate's talking about finding Captain Beefheart records at the right price. That's very difficult.
I've only seen reissues of Captain
Really?
Beefheart.
Okay.
I've never even held an original Captain Beefheart album in my hand. And there he is. Look at that. And now he's going to pull out Troutmaster replica. And there it is.
Didn't mean to flex on you, Steve.
I was going to say, weren't we just, talking about flexing earlier?
Yeah, but I mean, this is like one of those things that like zigzag one draw. That's just. I mean, I got a pretty beat up copy of this, but
He had a zigzag child.
what's that?
He had a zigzag child.
Zigzag child. There's the OG on straight there. What's that one?
It's red.
It's a red one. It's cherry
This
flavored.
is, I know, this is, this is 1977 Warner Bros. That's obviously not it. This is obviously a reissue. I picked this up on eBay about 10 years ago. I want to say I paid $20 for it. Um, yeah, I couldn't even tell you. Let's look at the label. Let's find out together. Uh, it tells me nothing. I'd have to do the whole Discogs thing and look it up. But I tell you, Clear Spots. What do you think of that record?
I have no opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. I've never heard it. I mean,
Okay.
like,
What about Lick My Decals and all that kind of? Do you
that one's all right.
Spotlight Kid?
I've heard like Dock at the Radar Station. Like,
That's a good. That's a good record. I remember. I heard that album. They played that before a band I was in played. Somebody played that over the top. Well, because that's what people want to hear when they hear a punk rock show. You know, they want to hear that. It did not go over well,
yeah.
but I enjoyed it.
But yeah, I mean that's a weird one. I mean he's got some, I don't know. So it's like, so if you like Frank Zappa and then you like Captain Beefheart, like I feel like Captain Beefheart. I'm trying to think of compose myself here. It's the it's just sort of like, I mean it's punishing to listen to Trout Mask Replica, but once you get it, like I don't want to be that guy, but once you get it, it's like, okay, here it is.
You can't
Right?
go back to your Frown Land now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's different, but I think that's the point of it. But when you realize exactly what went into making that record, I think you look at it. You know, liking it and disliking it is subjective, but I think at the very least you can respect it for what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah, like and I get it too. Like it's like you think about Frank Zappa and sort of how that those Verve records were very, um, like there's guidelines to recording. Like that's the interesting thing about the '60s, where you think about those Abbey Road things, like, and it was like the guys in the white suits that were the engineers, like, don't touch the buttons because this is what we do, right? That kind of thing. That, like,
Yeah.
that's how it was in the '60s, and like Frank Zappa was like one of the first people that was sort of like, yeah, I can do this too. Um, and then I think it's like that album to me is sort of the beginning where everything opens up, and um, yeah, like, okay, hey, Frank Zappa produced this record, and he just said do whatever you want to, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah, that's Beefheart Man is hard. I think that's like, usually people talk about Safe as Milk and they talk about Trout Mask Replica, and I think that's sort of like usually that's where that conversation ends, unless you meet somebody that's like just a really big weirdo, and they're like, "Oh man, you got to like lick my decals off." Right? Well, that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's
Hey, how
okay.
you doing?
That's your
No,
third one, right?
yeah, but Clear Spot, there's actually some I don't know what the structure. There actually seems to be a little bit of structure to some of those records, and I think that if people give those records a shot, I think that their opinions and their thoughts may change a little bit. I can't speak highly enough of Clear Spot. I really think that's a good record. When I got into really like narrowing down, all right, what is it that I want? That was definitely one that was on my list. And I think I ended up getting a reissue for like 12, $15, something like that of it. And yeah, again, revisit that album, or if you've never heard it, give Clear Spot a shot.
Yeah. Shane comments that Safe as Milk is so amazing, and I think it is. I think
Yeah.
that it's one of those albums that that was, I think, the what the record label wanted to produce, right? And then Trout Mask is the one that we get. That's the um, sort of what the band wanted to produce, right? Or Frank Zappa wanted to
So,
produce, like what they really
so,
wanted to come out to be. So,
all right, you give us his regular record, and we'll let you do the weird thing later.
well, but I guess the only is Lick My Decals Off. That's on. that's on Reprise, right? Or Warner Brothers.
I believe so.
Okay, so that was the only
It
album they did on
was
Buddha. Buddha is Save His Milk.
yes. And John Lennon was a big fan of that record. I think he said that was his album of the year that year. I'm being serious. I swear. I heard that someplace.
There you go. Yeah.
So
But yeah, I think that it's for me. It's hard to kind of place, like you said, with Zappa, sort of like what's kind of the best one, because I think that I can always like pull something out that's a pretty good, even like Zoot Allures, right? Like there's some good moments on that album as well too.
oh, wind up working at a gas station, Finder Finer, Friendly Wino, Disco Boy, dude. Yes, that's a great record. That's solid. That's one of his best.
Yeah. But some
That's
of
one
those
of his
ones from
best.
the ones from the '80s though, that's when it starts getting, I don't know, that's when it
Yeah,
gets a little difficult.
yeah. Man from Utopia, I like. What's You Are
Thingfish.
What You Is Thingfish is okay. You Are What You Is. I'm not a big fan of. And kind of anything kind of after them or us and all that. I kind of I kind of struggle getting through those records. So I definitely think everybody. I don't want to say has their peak, but I definitely think that some of the creativity kind of goes a little bit.
Yeah. I think
So
a couple. We've got Shane. I know mentioned this, and I think you might have said it a little bit earlier here. I'm looking in the chat. Um, said Hot Rats is fantastic. We didn't talk about that, but man, that
yeah,
is a
it's a
fantastic
perfect
record.
album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig says,
Mr. Green Jeans.
seems like Chic Your Booty is a favorite for a lot of people, one of the more accessible. And Nate says, I like You Are What You Is.
Well,
So,
good. See, and that's the thing. There's
but
nothing
everybody
wrong
can, right, everybody can kind of have, and that's cool.
for sure. And that's what's great. And they're not bad records. You Are What You Is not a bad record. You know. Have you seen the video for that?
No.
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 So, but no, they're not. And he's absolutely right. It's not a bad record, and I do think that Chic Your Booty is a little bit more accessible. Um, than a majority of his catalog. When you take Chic Your Booty compared with something like Lumpy Gravy or Uncle
It's
Meat,
completely different.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
they're completely different.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they're night and day. They're night and day,
Um, Craig
and they're
says,
both great. That's the
Craig says for the '80s, my pick is Tinseltown Rebellion. Um,
okay.
yeah, so
No fans of Man from Utopia. Am I going to
I
be
you
on
know
this mountain all
I
by
would
myself?
say I think when I
We
got
are not alone. That's what that instrumental is. I'm sorry. That's what
we're not
we
alone.
are not
Right.
alone.
That's it.
Yes. All right. Sorry to interrupt you. That just popped in my head.
um, looks like Vance jumped on. Hey Vance, we're talking about Frank Zappa and whatever else you want to talk about. Uh, we got Easy Meat from Craig.
There you
So
go.
tossing that one out there. But I'll tell you one album to me that is a little hard to listen to, and I used to love this album. Is that Fillmore album? Like I used to think it was so funny. I always thought like all the little jokes that Flo and Eddie were kind of doing were hilarious.
And if is
Yeah, well, I think I marked this that this wasn't kid friendly, so no, let's not say lyrics just for our own sanity. Um,
well, the Flo and Eddie
but
period was. I mean, even another band from LA, which I love, Billy the Mountain.
yeah,
I love that dude. I wish it was 2 hours long. I love it so much. Maybe not, but I digress. Um, I really like that, but some of the stuff like Magdalena and some of the lyrics, if you really look at it, it's like, ooh, like I should. This is every time I play that, Chris Hansen is going to be like, "What are you doing?"
what is
was was
this
it
record?
was a question of balance not even in the mix? Like you couldn't put on that. You go with this. So And I'm not even going to get an excuse and say it was a different time. That's ridiculous. But yes, some of those Flo and Eddie lyrics are just kind of like, ooh, let's sidestep this, and it's they're definitely a struggle to get through for all the wrong reasons.
Craig said, "I love the back and forth controversy with the Fillmore stuff between Lennon and Zappa. You'll have to sort of enlighten me. I don't know, Steve. Do you know what this is about? Or?
Was was now I know that there was were those the same shows that they ended up putting on sometime in
I'm in
New
New
York,
York.
like the yeah.
Um, I'm just waiting to see
Is
if
that what
Craig.
he's talking about?
I'm assuming. I think that because I think there's sometime in New York, wasn't there? Like, don't worry, Kyokyo. It's only whatever. I
Yeah. That's
right.
really a single album, in my opinion. Just
Yeah.
just side one and side two. John
I
Sinclair and all that.
I
I'm all
always
set with that.
I always love what is the one that's just it's the picture of just the sky. What is that one? What is that?
Mine or no, the Plastic Uno band, the live
Just
live
or
in Toronto.
live in Toronto. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the album that you'll find that like side one is always like sort of like you can tell it's like played, and then like side two is like a pristine record because it's like usually like they only get about maybe like 10, 15 seconds and then like
Nope,
you go
nope,
off of
not doing
it.
this. Not doing this.
That's great. Um, so Craig said who had the rights to release the material. So I'm gonna have to look into this, Craig. I really don't.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that it's the same show. I mean, what it's 1971, and I don't know. I mean, it's the Fillmore in New York, right? And the sometime in New York is right, also at the Fillmore. I'm assuming. So
maybe.
yeah. I mean, I'm not. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I'll
have
have to look at that.
I
I didn't
have
know
both
that
of those
they were.
albums, but I don't really know the connection there. So thanks, Craig. I'll have to sort of look into that and see what you sort of elaborating. He said, "Yeah, it's the
This is
same
what
show.
happens.
It's the same show. Wow.
Oh
Look at.
wow, okay.
All
See, I
right.
didn't know that. This is what happens when Zappa fans get together and start throwing this knowledge and enlightening each other. So thank you, sir.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. So I did not know that was the same show. That's awesome.
I'll be.
Um, well,
Wonder if there's a complete recording out there that exists. Evidently, there is
he said definitely
somewhere.
look into it. Pretty interesting. Yeah, it's probably that album and the other album, and it's the complete show. Uh, yeah, that's
With
great.
Yoko screaming and all, so there's that.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah,
Have you seen that video of where Lennon is playing with Chuck D's jamming with Chuck Berry,
Mm-mm.
and Yoko starts screaming? I'll have to send it to you. Has anybody seen that? It's for Chuck Berry's facial expressions are classic, and it's pretty amazing.
Well, I always like the from the Rock and Roll Circus. I think that you know the part that I'm talking about where they start dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun, and the guy's like playing the violin, right? And then Yoko just kind of comes over and she grabs the mic and sort of like points it down. You know the part I'm talking about? I'm sure
Yes,
you do. Yeah.
absolutely.
And then
Yep.
it's like
Yep.
then he's just like, what am I doing? Like what?
Yeah.
That's a great moment. That's a great moment. I wonder what that guy's doing these days. I mean, he's probably pushing up daisies, but I mean, he was supposed to be like a famous. They pulled this guy and were like, yeah, you want to do this, and I don't know, maybe somebody else can help us out in the comments. But he was supposed to, he was some sort of famous violin player, right? Like maybe it was an avant-garde kind of thing, but yeah, who knows?
Okay.
But yeah, I'll look that.
So that's funny.
So
So
yeah, so final thoughts on at the Fillmore. I think that's probably the album that I probably listen to the least anymore, just because it's tough to listen to now. I just
well, that and it's not necessarily kid friendly, so
Yeah.
it probably doesn't get a whole lot of spins for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, there's just not much there. If you're gonna listen to that period, why listen to that when you can listen to just another band from LA?
Yeah.
So just my thoughts on it.
So we were talking
And then
about.
there's that.
Go ahead.
That's not the same time. No. What's that Zappa release that I don't think it's from that tour. It's the one that they released in like '93 ish, somewhere around there. It's got the portrait of all of them on there, but they're kind of drawn like
Oh, that's from
Ruben and the
1968.
Jets.
Yeah, that's from
Okay, all right, never mind
1968.
it.
Yeah, that's
Okay, all right, so never mind.
that's a really I that was one of the first CDs I picked up of his.
Okay,
And yeah, no, that's really good because that's a really good version of King Kong on it. Um,
yeah.
and then there's like the dejected Pope, like whatever. They were
See,
like,
I've got to revisit that.
yeah,
I've got to
no, it's good,
revisit
it's
that because
good.
that's. Did you have anything by the road tape series? I think they did 3 volumes of that.
No, I had the You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore. I had those ones.
Yeah,
Um,
those are okay. I really like the Helsinki show from '74. That's one of his best shows ever. But
yeah.
the road tapes are a little bit different, and they've got a really good version. I think it's from '68 of Orange County Lumber Truck, which may be my favorite
Oh,
Zappa piece.
maybe that's. Am I confusing that? Or no, that's on there too. I think King Kong and I don't have it at the ready. All right.
I'd have to look and see specifically what shows they're from, but yeah, it's like 20 minutes, and they have Oh No incorporated with it and everything, and it's really a fun listen.
Yeah. I mean, but again, I think we sort of started talking about Zappa, where we were talking about being completists, right? And he's an artist that you sort of you get a taste, and then it's like here comes another, here comes another, here comes another, here comes another, and I think it is sort of difficult. I mean, because you think there was all those ones on the was it Ryko label, like those green
Mm-hmm.
tinted ones, right? Those came out in the '80s,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then there was sort of that reissue
No,
campaign that was
no, I think those came out. Did it? I think those came out in the like the early two, like the late '90s, early 2000s. Because that was my buying habits of Zab, and that's still what I have on my CDs
no,
or all
because
those.
those are the ones. If you look at the spine, it's sort of like whatever the color of the album is, and then it's almost like somebody ripped a piece of paper away, and then it's like
Yeah,
in
yeah,
black.
it's
So
yeah.
there's ones before that though. There's those ones are
Oh,
on
okay,
like a
okay.
green tinted sort of sea. Well, some of those I think
Yeah,
some of the later ones do have that green tinted ones, but these were ones that were from the '80s. Just kind of a plain CD. I'll have to find that. I know I have like I think Apostrophe and Overnight
yeah.
Sensation.
My Uncle Meat on CD is the '80s version where he went back and remixed it, and it's terrible. The so, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Cool. And then, of course, there has just been a reissue campaign. I would say within the last probably 5 years or so. And all those have the little, it's like FZ1, FZ2,
Yeah.
FZ3, just so you can make
Just
sure
so
that yeah,
you can
you
have
don't miss.
all of them in order.
You can put them all in order and look at them in order. It's funny. Craig asked, "Did we see the Zappa doc?" I did not.
I have not. I have not. It's something I've been definitely wanting to see, but no, I have not seen it yet.
I really haven't. I know that there's a lot of musical documentaries. I'm always a big fan of those. I know there's a lot that have come out, and I just have missed them. Really, that last one I watched was that thing that was on YouTube with
With the Terry
Chicago,
Cat.
with Terry Kath
Yeah.
and Chicago, which wasn't bad. Um, there'll always be a
It.
punchline. There'll always be a punchline for me. Um,
Yeah.
just I can't get them. Like I just don't understand Chicago.
We need to do that maybe if our next stream if everybody's what we did with 29 or 6 to 4, because
Yeah.
I still laugh about that. Dent. You know what I'm talking about? How it's just like nobody knows what we're talking about. And I don't want to like have inside jokes and just
So
be like
let's
what
set
do
it
you?
up. Let's set it up.
Yeah,
Steve and I have never listened to Chicago's first album, the Chicago Transit Authority album, and
great record.
I still see it for $1, right? It's a record that you see all the time. I found like a pristine copy on vinyl, and I was like, you know what? Maybe let me just get it on CD too, right? So I think I traded in some stuff and I got it for very very cheap, if not free. Um, excuse me. So as I'm listening through this, right? Um, I was listening to 25 or 6 to 4, and we don't understand. You and I both don't understand. What's the deal with Terry Kath? Like, why do
I
people
mean, he's good, but he's not. I don't know that he belongs in that echelon of guitar heroes.
like he's not top 25 by any means.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's top 50. I
No.
wouldn't even put him on the top 100, right?
We for him to be on the top 100, we would have to physically compile a list and see if he made it. But the short answer, nah.
No. So we listened together to 25 to 64 and pretty much listened to it at full volume, and we basically just focused on the guitar part. And it was pretty terrible. So
It's not good.
it's not good. Like, it's just I don't understand why people say that he's such an amazing guitar player, and I don't mean any ill will to the man, but
No, no,
yeah.
not at all. And you don't want to speak ill of the dead or anything like that. But I've got to think that him dying early had probably something to do with that.
Well,
Again, not to speak ill and not to be ugly, but
I think a lot of times it's like people compare him in the same breath as Hendrix, and I just don't see it.
which is insanity. I mean, that's
Craig
no.
said agreed, solid player, but I'm in the same boat. I don't get
3 for 3.
3 for 3. Yeah, I don't understand what.
Have we heard anybody say this that's not in the band Chicago? Be like, oh, he's in the same. Like, yeah, those are his boys. Like, they're not going to be like, oh, that guy was hot garbage, man.
I guess that's a
No,
good
they're
point.
not.
I guess that was like people were saying, oh, he was like Hendrix, man. He was like Hendrix, man. Like,
I mean, I guess he was like Hendrix in the sense that he played guitar, but as far as
out of everybody
that's
in this
pretty much
room,
what
Steve, out of everybody in this room right now, you are probably the closer to Hendrix guitar player than I am. No, that's it. That's how. But
so yes, if we're going to qualify it like that, then yes, they're
let's play
absolutely
some
right.
guitar and find out.
But that's pretty much where it stops. But we should do that. We should play that and kind of have
We'll
a
get
listen
we'll get a
along.
copyright strike, so we can do it. So, but we can maybe give you the instructions on how to do it at home. Have your own, you know, at home Terry Kath 25 to 64 test.
Just listen to the solo. Just listen to the solo.
Just like listen like every 10 seconds. Like, just play 10 seconds and then like think about what you just heard, and then play another 10 seconds and then think about what you just heard, and then
after Danny, what's his name? Danny something or other. After his drum fill, his very famous drum fill, not famous, but very obvious drum fill.
Well, and he's just like, then wrap it up. It's like the wrap it up kind of fill there,
right?
Yeah.
It's a quick hit on the tom and back onto the snare, but listen to the remaining guitar solo from that point on.
Craig, since I think you might be the only person that's still on the chat right now. Oh, Nate.
All right.
It might be Nate. It might just be Nate. That's your homework. Listen to that song. Get back to us about the solo. Tell us about the technicalities, and was there enough WD-40 on the wah pedal, or was it getting stuck? That's my question. Craig says apparently Hendrix made comments about Terry being a great player, and Nate said Jimmy just didn't want to be rude. So.
Jimmy, what do you think of him?
What do you think of Chicago? Chicago's great. It's a great town.
I love it. They got great food there. It's really nice. It's the band. Hey, listen, I gotta run. Okay.
The hot dogs are great, Chicago style.
The White Sox. Speaking of which, man, I can't believe the White Sox got knocked. It's like old news. Like this again. My baseball bracket was busted by the White Sox, and I had the White Sox and Giants both going to the World Series, and that is not going to happen now.
Not in 2021. It's not.
So
yeah.
But anyway.
So I think we should probably wrap this up. I know that we had quite a long thing. So thank you for everybody for joining.
Absolutely.
It was awesome. We'll do it again. If you aren't, go check out the Minglewood Preservation Society and Pit Barbecue on Facebook. Um, that is sort of the umbrella that we're going to be under. And I guess we could maybe say this will be when our live shows are. And since this was the inaugural one, and I guess I did it right because everybody actually could hear us talking and all that. That's good to know. And we'll do it again. And if maybe we can, source some conversation to talk about. It's pretty nice talking about Frank Zappa. I think that was awesome. I'm definitely gonna go put the Frank Zappa on shuffle and just kind of hear what comes up from
Just go ahead and start with Man from Utopia and come over to that side. Start singing the praise of Man from Utopia.
I mean, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I thought I know it's one that usually gets it gets crapped on, but it's not too bad. So, but yeah, thank you guys. Thanks everybody
Yeah.
who's still on. Nate
Thank you.
who's
Thank
still
you.
on. Craig who's still on. Guys, have a great evening, and we'll talk soon. So,
Bye.
see y'all later.